Hello, everyone. Friends, market analysis right away. In fact, here we probably have the first strong direct correction. Well, strong in terms of having in mind a one-time such one at the end of certain events for the first time since August 2. That is, there was a rollback on August 11 for 3%, and now it's already going almost 6% as it all looks now. It's a 4-hour objectively. I certainly do not like this here as a double top. Plus, to this top, we had a rally. Yes, according to the indicators, according to all indicators, while in a fast way and in a slower way, we have a divergence about these years. They are very pronounced. I don't like it very much. That is, if it all goes into full operation, and while there is a chance that it will not go, why I will say a little later, then this whole thing can be traded right up to the very bottom, that is up to the marks of $112,000, $113,000. All these years just trade at the height of the figure. And then, if it happens, then for a certain time, the price will go, from my point of view, into this wide side if it suddenly decides to trade this scenario. Well, I don't know, maybe there will be some kind of rebound now and then trade here. That is, then the side will most likely be in the range of 111 to 120, 124 for some time in this range, but most likely 111 to 120, approximately in this range. This is in the worst scenario. But at the same time, after all, as a rule, macro tops, strong market turns when the market goes down for a long time, they are accompanied by such momentary flows. And here, if we look at the 5-minute chart, 14,500 Bitcoins were traded here. This is only on Binance I'm looking. As the most important, this is a liquid exchange. Just at the moment, as a rule, the domination jumps there incredibly strongly. Here, it did not jump much. That is, here, it even rolled back. That is, the altcoins were strong enough. No, they also fell. They fell even stronger. But in general, according to the domination, the Ethereum also held well, and so far, it does not look like some kind of global reversal. It looks like the removal of the overheating. What is the reason for such a flow? Well, it's all simple. That is, it's not that they said something. Who is the one who takes a jungler? Who is the one who does something in America? We don't plan to change gold for Bitcoin yet. The reason is very simple. Here are the data. They came out at 3:30 p.m. Here we have 3 stars. Here it is. 0.9 for a month for July. 0.9. 4 times more than expected. That is, industrial inflation jumped very strongly, very strongly. Moreover, the weather is 3.7 against expected 2.9 industrial inflation. Tariffs are starting to influence. Plus, there was a certain number of high shoulder longs, and they were washed away. The total amount of liquidation we have now is, for today, 24 hours, 1.01 billion. That is, it went straight big, big, seriously liquidated, guys. But at the same time, after all, PPI is, well, this is industrial inflation. This is not the main indicator for the Federal Reserve. The main one is CPI, and CPI was lower than expected, and this served as a good boost for the market. Until this moment, even after the release of PPI so high, why is this not so important for the Federal Reserve? We see it in the bets on the FedWatch. Yes, how the FedWatch estimates the probability of a decrease in the bet at the next meeting. That is, at 0.25%, the probability has not changed much. If yesterday it was 94.3%, then after such a wild report on PPI, very strong inflation, pro-inflation report, 98%. Well, somewhere at 4%, it fell. Not much, almost 100% anyway. The probability is very high. Of course, the probability that the price will drop by 0.5% has changed very strongly. It fell to 0, and there is a slight probability that now Due to this and this decrease, 9% is what will leave the current rate. But this is very little. This is still very, very little. Still, the market is mostly waiting for a decrease. Plus, if we look not at crypto, which at the moment was still long, at such a wild growth, the same NASDAQ, for example, it carbon reacted in almost no way at all. Well, almost no way. That is, here are these 1530, here they are, 5-minute, and they have already bought everything. Well, this stick was already up there. The same S&P 500, absolutely the same. They bought it and went to the side. This is a 5-minute. Only what was longed for reacted strongly. That is, crypto and Russell 2000, well, a small drop, which before that grew very much. Seriously grew very much. Yes, Russell fell. That is, today, it's almost 2% already falling. Well, before that, how much it grew. That is, it was a serious stick, therefore there is still a chance that this whole thing will not work here, although I no longer exclude this scenario. Just keep in mind that if someone has not yet been in a bid, not in a position, 112, 114 will be a very good entry point. Very good if it comes here. Raising. I also don't really like the structure. This absorption, we got out of R3 on a good volume and absorbed it on even larger volume and larger spread and went back down. That is, you need to see how the day will end and not make a decision because I don't like the structure yet. Just technically, I can't keep it like this anymore. What else is there? There are no divergences on the day on Bitcoin. Here it is for 4 hours. There are no divergences on the day. This is a new wave of growth. This cannot be evaluated as a divergence. No. Here we removed all this overheating. All this is a new wave of growth. And here we either go to the side or we return after the correction. But we need a trigger, at least some, to go back. And here we go. Next, a week. Yeah, too, this range is potentially visible. And here you can see everything very well. Here is an expansion. 1, 2, here are 3, 4, 5. Here is the breaking point of the weekly trend. In fact, the change of the entire structure is on the market around $112,000. Here we can walk for some time. Here, in this range. Removing all overheating. That is, there are no divergences on the week either. MACD is growing consistently. A very long-term indicator. RSI. Well, some kind of head is shown here, but there wasn't much overheating here either. I mean in terms of bodies. RSI. To just kind of merge it all together. Well, the target is not worked out yet anyway. Here it remains, the target in an early closed figure. We did not get a little, the area of 127, 128. Somewhere there is the final goal for this V-shaped reversal that was in, well, since March on Trump's depths. On the air, 3790, 4350, a global long. Here it is, a global long. Until they came here, until they got it. But here the limits are set. That is, nothing changes here. The air still looks strong. Any good rollback is a long. Yesterday I did not want to go into the currents. Well, too much growth. I just do not go into this risk management. I do not like this in RM. Total 3, by the way, completed the minimal goal. My minimal goal is 1.11, 1.14. That is, today, at night, it was 1.11. I did not touch my portfolio table. I don't know, maybe it was worth fixing, of course, partially. After all, the goal was achieved. At least we touched it, but I decided not to touch it yet. Here, by the way, total 3 at 4 hours is not clear to me yet. There are movements here. There are no special divers on AeroSci, for example, but the movement on the indicator is not very strong. Here on MACD, there is this diver. Here it is. That is, it can also be worked out, corrected somewhere back, for example. Here to 1 trillion, closer, did a retest. Well, nothing terrible will happen in this case. Here, if we go below, here, this will be bad. But up to 1 trillion, there is free correction up to 1 trillion. But again, here, the key is still the index, the main ones, NASDAQ, Dow Jones in general, everything is in place. Everyone kind of doesn't care about PPI, as if, and even on futures, nothing much has changed, well, except for the probability of a decrease in the rate by 0.5%, but it was already small. So, in conclusion, yes, nothing terrible has happened. It looks more like this withdrawal of the poured longs, which can last. It can last, taking into account the strength of the correction, until the first positive news. And here the maximum where it can last, I already said, 112 there minus 114. This range, if it comes, you can go well. Probably. That's all. That is, there is no horror yet. No horror yet. No horror yet. Even in the worst case here, technically I see here. Here is the range. Here we buy in the middle and sell at the top, approximately. Or if now we are there, I don't know, by some miracle we still buy back here. Again, we get out of the monthly R3, again we get out. That is above the mark of $121,000, and here we fix ourselves. Well, you can then enter directly on the current. But it's too early. It's too early. Corrections are strong. $1 billion of liquidation is too much to turn around so sharply. Let's see what happens next. But I told you my plan. I told you my plan clearly, and from it I will act further. Thank you all for your attention.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.